All right, folks, thanks for being here. Open up today's press conference. Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, as you evaluate your offensive line through 8 games, where are they at, and just how much have they improved since the first game?
I think we took a step this week. Where we go from here, we'll see. But I thought, we ran off the ball better. I thought we got good movement. I thought, Trey ran hard, and that combination of things really helped and boosted our run game. So, we'll see where that takes us on Saturday against Rutgers. But we want to be playing our best football here down the stretch, and that's a big part of what we've been focusing on. This time of year, you want to be enhancing the things you're doing well, and improving the things that you feel like you need to improve on. That's been an area for sure, but there was definitely a step in the right direction.
Does Trey give you guys that maybe you don't have without him?
Trey gives us the ability to hit home runs. Trey's very competitive. He's versatile. He can do a lot of things in the passing game and the run game. So having him in there makes our offense much different.
Third row right, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Kind of building on that Trey question. So give importantly or whatever he got against Wisconsin, given that you can maybe change the game with one round where you're not ready to do it.
Tim only gets 3 questions. He was late for the press conference today, so he only gets 3. Tim. Yeah, I think we always have to find ways to get Trey the ball. Our playmakers, whether it's again in the run game, pass game, across the board, and I think he ran 24 times in this game, and that was a healthy bit for him, especially coming off of a couple week time where he wasn't on the field, and but we worked hard the week before to get his wind up, so he was able to do that.
And real quick on him, because he's still online.
Yeah, we're expecting him to practice this week. He was available for the game on Saturday. We just didn't feel like he was quite where he needed to be, and had a bunch of guys step up for him. But looking for a full day of work here today, and then a full week, and then going in. We want him to be full go. But he was ready, and he's working hard. He's a tremendous young man. I mean, just the attitude he's had, that he wants to get on the field, and he's forced others to pull him back, and that's the attitude you want to have. And that is a great sign for your team when guys are just fighting to get back on the field, and he's one of them.
Bit more on Trey. You guys made a concerted effort to get him going in the pass game as well in that second quarter. What does he give you? And when you're trying to get the running backs involved in the pass game, but you're also trying to get the tight ends involved in the pass game, do they kind of take away from each other when you're trying to get the ball spread around more?
Well, you have the matchups that are the most noticeable, which is the receivers and the corners, and then you have different zones and man that you got to identify. But ultimately, what you're trying to do is space it out versus zone and win against man-to-man. Our tight ends, you've seen Cade do some different things when he's got matched up that in a favorable matchup that he's won on, and you've seen our running backs do the same thing, and all of our guys do really well out of the backfield. But you can see certainly the explosiveness of Trey when he's out there, and that's just not something that's happened in this past game. He's done that in the past too. He's got big catches. I think his first big touchdown in Minnesota was a screen pass. He caught a big one against Maryland last year, so he's always been a weapon out of the backfield.
Kyle, I know you're not going to divulge if he's injured or not, but if you're dealing with a lower body injury as a quarterback, how can that impact you as a thrower?
Well, this time of year you're going to have, everybody does. You have things that bumps and bruises and things, and there's difference between hurt and being injured. And another example of a guy who really fought through it and showed toughness in that game, and that's once you get in November, that's what's going to happen. You got to play depth, and guys got to work through those type of things, and those you talked about some different guys already today, but there's a handful of guys that was that way, and he showed his toughness in that game. So that's why we had to get back in here, get healthy this week, and have a great week of practice.
Warriors.
Yeah, you talk about, this run that you're going to go on here in November. It's something, you brought up since the end of the Wisconsin game. Just what have you learned through your first few years as a head coach about November, maybe that's different that you've taken and you can now apply to, these late season?
Well, I just think the biggest thing is every week there's issues that you have to address. And like you said, you learn every year different things. You learn so much. You have to, take a self-assessment after every season and figure out the things that you did well and the things you got to improve on, the things you learned, and you got to get them fixed. And I think, as you look at this season, we've said we want to play our best football in November because, that's where the biggest games are. So it's been a constant build. That's been the message. But along the way, you got to win every game. So what does that mean after a game and you win? You have to identify the issues because they're there, whether you win or lose, and get them fixed so that when you get down the road, you're at full capacity.
Tony German, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, back to the injury policy. What's the timeline on Devin, if you can update anything there?
Again, it's hard for me to talk specifics, but, we're expecting Devin to practice today. In what capacity, we'll see. But, we're going to see him out there today.
And then what are you missing when you don't have a Mecca?
Mecca is a warrior. He's productive. He's tough. He's a great leader. He does a lot of things for us. That being said, I think Xavier Johnson has done a really nice job stepping in. I feel like Julian has stepped up in other ways, not just in the passing game. And certainly Marvin has done a great job. Cade, the guys have stepped up when he hasn't been out there. But, having him back does open up a lot of different things for us. And, it's well documented, his production since he's been here. And, again, when we have all of our guys out there, we're full of capacity, then, we're the most dangerous. But that doesn't mean we haven't got a bunch of guys that stepped up and they've kind of found different roles and you could see a little bit of that kind of showing itself on Saturday night.
Rob Aller on the feedback.
Ryan, how did Kyle grade out?
He had some, really good snaps. He, if you were grading whatever number of plays, there was a lot of pluses there. The thing that's hard about a quarterback is, one play can ruin your whole day. And there were some critical errors in there that that hurt us, and he knows that. So, nobody's, more critical of himself than he is. And, but there were still a lot of good things out there as well. So we got to, eliminate the things that, can hurt the team. And certainly the turnovers are a big part of that.
I mean this more as explanation than excuse.
Mhm.
But is there, I don't know if you golf.
I do.
Is there such a thing as just having a bad day? If you run into that, are guys allowed to just not be feeling it that day?
No. And I think it's a mindset. You're not allowed to have a bad day at Ohio State, any of us. That's just the way it goes. So I say all the time, on your bad days, you have to at least be average, at the very least, if not better than that. On your average days, you got to be really good. On your good days, you got to be great. And I think playing quarterback is similar to playing golf. What I mean by that is each individual play, each individual shot is affected by the last play or the last shot because of where you are situationally, but has nothing to do with anything. Only thing that matters is that singular play. But if you hit the ball in the water on the 18th hole, you can ruin the whole 4 days of golf in the PGA. Well, it's the same thing playing quarterback. And so I tell those guys all the time that they should play golf because sometimes you have to manage the round. Some days, maybe your swing isn't where it needs to be and you have to figure out how to manage that round. You got to keep the ball in the fairway, maybe put your driver in the bag. When it's feeling good, pull it out and hit it right down the middle. There's a lot of parallels there. And I see a lot of quarterbacks who play golf. There's some of that goes on. And so I have suggested in the offseason for those guys to play a little golf. I think it makes sense. But yeah, to answer your question, there's, how many 80 some odd shots or 70 shots, depending how good you are at golf. And, each shot is its own individual shot. It's the same thing when you're playing quarterback. Each play is its own individual play, and you have to play that play. You can't let the last one have an impact on what you do on the next one. In the off season, yeah, we talk about that. Yeah, just, and even now, you can't let what happened in the last play, because there's a lot of variables. And, if you're sitting there letting that play hurt you on the next one, then now you're really hurting the team. So I think if you were looking at the positives there in the second half, Kyle was able to move on and really even, have a voice there in the last drive telling me, if we turn this into a 2-score game, we put these guys away. And so that was all positive there, that he was able to move on from that, because some guys struggle with that. They can't quite get over what just happened. And all of a sudden, one bad play makes a bad day, and now you're in trouble. So I thought that was good in terms of his resilience.
Andy Baxter, Lettermen Row.
Ryan, Kate Stover, 0 targets on Saturday. Is that a non-negotiable for him in terms of getting in the ball, or is that just the nature of the tight end position?
Wasn't for the lack of trying. There was several plays that we designed that didn't go his way. Sometimes that does happen. But he played a great game. He was battling through that whole entire game, and he he's another warrior there now. I mean, just unbelievable captain, great player, and we're always going to try and find ways to get him the ball.
What's the tight end depth beneath him and Steve right now?
Yeah, G. Scott is the 2 right now, and then after that, some inexperience. So, going to work a bunch of guys this week, and possibly get him in the game, so that as we head into the home stretch here, guys have some game experience. You've seen us use different guys in that spot. We've been in 10 personnel, we've been in personnel. We bring Luke Montgomery into the game to be an extra tight end. So we have a couple different options there, but we'd like to build that depth as well.
Far right, Adam King, WBNS.
Did you see anything from Kyle after Saturday that maybe you hadn't seen from him yet? I mean, obviously he can go the way he wanted in the locker room between the game and now. How does he handle it? And do you see anything that surprised you?
Well, I think when you have a couple bad drives, you kind of get your almost back up against the wall, and you got to respond. And I thought he did. So I think that was a positive. And he did get banged up in that game and fought through it, and then showed leadership down the stretch. So, always trying to identify the things that we got to get better at, but the things that we need to improve on for sure. But, there was some encouraging things in terms of his response to what happened.
You look at a moment like that as a quarterback. How much does having a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. just become just kind of an outlet at that point?
Oh yeah, that's very important. It's a comfort level, and those guys have been playing together for a long time, but it's not just Marvin; it's some of the other guys as well. When you have really good players around you, you have a comfort level and a confidence that those guys are going to get open and you can deliver the ball.
Are you pole watching or trick or treating tonight?
I'll be watching film of practice, Clay.
Yeah,
Yeah, right here. A whistle around my neck.
but you'll take note of the CFP.
For us, we have to win this week, and I say that every year, and I think it's great for the fans. I think it's great for football to talk about it, but ultimately we have to continue to win and win out. So that's our focus, and we're just going to take it one week at a time, and then we'll come up for air at the end of the season, because that's what the ultimate rankings are going to matter after the Big Ten championship game.
Tom Sperry, WBN.
What's your biggest concern going to Rutgers this week?
I don't know if it's concerns. I think anytime you go on the road in the Big Ten in November, you got to bring it, and they're doing a great job. Greg does a great job. They're playing well on both sides of the ball. They have a great identity. They're going to challenge you in all 3 phases. So, again, I don't think it's a concern, other than just the fact that we got to go, continue to take the next step as a team, and that's it.
What about expecting the unexpected against him?
Yeah, creative in a lot of ways, certainly in special teams, and tries to attack you. So, we got to have a good plan for that. And, we have, some real veteran guys who are aware, and so we'll challenge them and make sure that we're sound in all those areas, because they do a great job with that and are creative for sure.
Far left, Jared Smalley, WCMH.
Hey, Ryan, obviously with Greg being back at Rutgers, they're going to play good defense, and they are. Statistically, they are. I'm wondering, when you look at evaluating them for the season, the way they played, some of the better teams they've played, especially on defense, really, really strong against the pass. What do you see on tape that gives you an idea of why they're having some success?
And, a combination of good players. I think the talent has been upgraded. I think they do a good job schematically and, play complementary football. And, I just think it's all those things. And so that's why we got to do a great job of preparing. And, each week has its own challenge, and this is just another version of it.
When you guys recruited Davison, was the hope that was the pitch, hey, you get to play with your brother?
No, but no, he and his family, and it's been such a great addition to our program having Davison here. Just his competitiveness, the way he comes to work every day. He's a pro, and we're awful glad that he joined us.
Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
Right after the game, you weren't even really aware that what exactly happened with Lathan. Do you have a better sense now that that's going to be long term, or do you guys got lucky there?
I think we'll probably have an update later in the week. We're still trying to figure out kind of the timeline on that, but yeah, we definitely have a better idea, just not definitive.
In general, in a season like this where this offense hasn't been quite as efficient, scoring isn't quite as prolific, is the calculus for you changing at all on when to go for it on fourth down, when to kick a field goal in that plus territory, maybe especially in the red zone, fourth and short, those things? The two spots in particular on third down, I'm as the coach, I'm going to take responsibility that, it's my responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. We can't get, pushed out of field goal range in those two situations. So, you want to be aggressive. But, I look back and probably should have run it in those situations, added a few yards to it and kicked the field goal to make it a 2-score game. But, want to be aggressive and throw the ball. Got pushed out of field goal range in both of those spots. So I've got to think through that a little bit. So ultimately that's my responsibility. So I think, we got to make sure in that spot we turn that into a 2-score game, especially with how well our defense is playing. Maybe you look at it maybe differently this year than you would have looked at it last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
I think our defense is playing really good football right now. And based on how the game is playing out, you try to get an idea, are they in control of the game? I felt like, the last couple of weeks, our defense has been in control of the game. And based on that, you try to make the best decision to either make it a 1, 2, 3-score game in that spot. I think we'll have to talk about, games in particular when it comes to that. But remember, the goal is just to go 1-0 every Saturday. And that's our job. Now, again, we don't turn the ball over in the first half. It doesn't have to be as close as it had to be. But that's our challenge for this week, is just play cleaner. And I tell our guys all the time, we're in control. If we play clean, if we play well, then it's not as much of a game in the fourth quarter as it was last week. But Wisconsin's a very good team. They're very well coached, and so is Rutgers. And so, playing in this conference is not easy. And so we'll keep grinding and keep pushing, to play perfect football, because that's what we want to do.
Ryan, with Kyle dealing with that injury, do you have to manage him any differently, whether in practice or even in the game, just to try to keep him healthy for the stretch run?
I think you're always aware of, where guys are at. It's a long season, but you got to do what you got to do to win the game too. So that's always a balance that you try to strike, for sure.
And just with Rutgers, do you see anything different in what Rutgers is doing this year in terms of their success than maybe you've seen in past years going against them?
Just offensively, they have a different scheme, very similar to what Minnesota did a few years back. Same coordinator. You can see a lot of similarities to the way that they're playing, controlling the ball, and then obviously playing well on defense.
Austin Ward,
Ryan,
podcast.
when you got late in the third quarter and Kyle wasn't putting any weight on that left ankle, you had a little bit of a layoff there between the quarters. What were the conversations like, if you had any, with Kyle before he went and got on the exercise bike? Did you think maybe about putting Tristan in to finish that game? What was going on in the sideline there?
He's tried to get feedback on, what exactly is going on, where are we at, what can we do, what can't we do, are you 100% or you're not, just get rolled up, those type of things. And then you do, you make the decision on where you're going next. But he said, look, I'm going to be fine. Don't worry about me. I'm good. And so, again, just showed a lot of toughness there.
I'm not suggesting it was a right or wrong decision. I'm just wondering how it played out, because you talked about Emeka fighting to want to go play, and Kyle didn't look like he was at his full effectiveness. Like, how much does that weigh in the back of your mind that he wants to do it, but maybe that wouldn't have been the best thing on Saturday? You won the game. I'm not arguing about the result.
Well, I think what you do is you try to determine what gives the team the best chance to win, in that moment, but also moving forward. And you try to identify it the best you can and make the best decision you can. I actually thought, Kyle in the second half, other than a couple plays, played much better than he did in the first half. So, that was encouraging. If we saw something that was just, radical out there that, then you make the decision based on that. But we felt like where he was at, he could still function and made some good throws.
Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, when Justin was first starting, talked a lot about throwing the ball away. Same with CJ. Obviously, that was the topic with Kyle this past weekend. How much conversation have you guys had about that? It just doesn't seem to have come up in these settings as much. How much have you guys talked about it individually?
Yeah, you talk about it all the time. You just, where is, why are we calling the play? What's the design of the play? When it plays out like that, trust your feet, trust your eyes. When it doesn't play out like that, where is your outlet? Where's the ball going? What's your plan? And then when it really breaks down, what's your plan there? Because you really can't come up with all the scenarios that may happen, right? The second play of the game, the ball's down by his ankles. He doesn't quite see the read. Like how do you can't get out in front of all these different things. Zero pressure on a certain situation, all those types of things. And so we just always talk about having a plan and constantly going through what may happen on this play. And so, for the most part, I feel like, he's done a good job of that, but there's certainly some things that we learned coming out of this past week that, I know he's going to want to get better at this week. And then, same thing on my end, making sure that, as coaches, we're putting him and I'm putting him in the best position to be successful. And so, we all have to look at that and make sure we're doing the right thing.
In that same vein, I think he's had a number of intentional grounding penalties. I know some of those have been maybe questionable, but when you look back, is there a connection there or something you guys can address with him to avoid that situation?
I think it's, again, trying not to put him in a situation like that, but also, just having a plan and an outlet for, when things break down, what is your answer? Where is that ball going? Whether it's breaking contain and then it has to cross the line of scrimmage, or if you're in the pocket, making sure you have somebody in mind in terms of a receiver to make sure that the ball is in his range so that something like that doesn't come up.
Spencer Holbrook, Lettermen Row.
Brandon said after the game that Marvin needed a few more targets, I thought. But other than Marvin, the rest of your receivers.
That's every game.
But receivers not named Marvin only have 4 targets. Is that not enough? And what do you have to do to get Julian and Carnell? I'm sure it's going to change when Mecca comes back to get those guys more ball.
Yeah. Just try to continually find different ways to get guys open and, keep pushing the envelope on it. I think it's week to week. And we ran the ball. I forget how many times we ran the ball in this game, but we ran it a bunch as well. And we got a little bit of rhythm going in the run game. So, maybe didn't have as many opportunities for those guys. And, there were, a couple intentional groundings and things like that maybe were designed for certain guys that didn't show up. But no, we're going to try to spread the ball around the best we can.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah. Second play of the game, you referenced the low snap. On that play, the 3 interior linemen ended up blocking one guy that allowed the blitzer. I'm sure in the 8th game of the year, that's not something you want to see. I mean, you said there's progress in the offensive line. Is there enough progress? And then where does it stand?
Well, that play in particular, the guy who blitzed was hot, and the play was designed to block the 2 guys off the edge, and Kyle didn't quite see him coming. So, he said once his eyes went down, he couldn't see him. If his eyes were up, he would have seen that was a pressure, and the ball would have gone to Trey. And we had 2 blockers out in front of him, and probably would have been an explosive play. Didn't happen. Those are the things that we just have to clean up. Second play of the game, it's like you just pound your fist in the ground because it didn't quite happen. Why? Well, the snap was a little bit low, didn't quite see it. So the line was sliding to the right on that play. So that was everything about that was exactly how we designed it, other than the ball didn't go to Trey. So I thought the blocking on the perimeter was excellent. I thought Josh Simmons did the right thing. I think, in that moment, he has to block the most dangerous guy. He felt like the defensive end was the most dangerous guy. The linebacker came from depth. So I think he made the right decision there. Sometimes linemen will get nervous and say, well, I gotta squeeze inside and let the defensive end go. He didn't. I mean, he really did a nice job. The line was sliding to the right there. You can see the end drop. We were hot in that situation and didn't quite execute it. So that play in particular, we got to execute better. I thought the design was right. Everything was being executed. We just didn't get it there. So between Carson and Kyle, we just got to get that right. But just to answer your question overall, yeah, I mean, every play you could look at and try to, identify, where the faults are, and there's enough to go around. There's some good things for sure, and some things we got to get better at. But I just think overall, when you look at how we blocked in this game, certainly in the run game, there was a lot of progress. Some things in the pass game, we guys certainly have to get better at.
You have an update on Mayan?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, mine's actually going to be out for the year. So, feel really, bad for mine that, he's not going to be able to play. Had a procedure done, and so, they let us know that he's going to be out for the season. So, Mayan's done a lot of great things for us, and that's a big hit for that room and for our team. But the good news is we have some good depth in that room, and Tony's done a good job of building it.
Had a procedure, or will have a procedure?
Yeah, he had a procedure done. Yeah, it was. Yep. No, different. Yeah. So.
Joey Kaufman, just that.
Ron, any idea I think he still has eligibility left to it, and then any idea what the future will be?
No, I don't think that's been really. I think I'm sure that he's considering what his next steps are here, but I think it's also new. He's still trying to just focus on his rehab, and then we'll kind of address that as we get closer to the end of the season.
Other thing, Lorenzo Styles is at I think 4-game mark. He's appeared in.
He's got 3. Yeah.
But what's any idea what the plan is for him this year? Because I guess
he's got one more game to play in. The plan is for him to play in one more game, and then kind of go from there. So we just felt like if we needed him and there was an emergency that we were going to put him in the game. Other than that, we were going to try to hold this year for him to learn the position, get better. Play in those 4 games, and then keep that red shirt.
Right next door, 10 May on 3, Lettermen Row.
Thank you, Jerry. Sorry about being late, by the way. It's all right. Number one, is there a knack to running an end around your jet, whatever you want to call it? And does it look like Xavier Johnson, looking for the cut up? I mean, I think it's key there.
Yeah.
And look like that's coming on for him. I mean, do you agree with that? What do you see there that's promising? Because that kind of developing more into a weapon.
Yeah, he's he can run all of our run plays. You've seen him run counter last year. You've seen him run the stretch play, inside zone stretch from the offset. The play in particular that you're talking about is a play that the 49ers have kind of made popular there with Deebo Samuel, as a receiver, and Mecca's run that play in the past. It takes a guy who has some running back skills, a bigger guy who, like you said, can look to circle the field and then upcut when he needs to, and then kind of find his way through. But it certainly fit last week, and he's got a good knack for that, like you said.
And as you look around the country, I mean, Debo Sweeney kind of went off on a caller, like on his college show last night or night before last, whatever. But the pressure he's feeling. Can you explain the pressure that you're feeling right now with an unbeaten team, probably ranked 1 or 2 or 3 in the college football playoff rankings tonight, et cetera? And, you're sitting there answering questions mostly about stuff that could be better. You understand? What does that pressure feel like internally for you?
It's just that's the job. And, you try to take it one day at a time, and you try to grow and you try to learn. But ultimately, this is about the kids. This is about the players. I call them kids. These guys aren't kids. They're grown men. It's about them. And that's why you get into coaching, is to have an impact on young people. And, along the way, you're very competitive, and, you want to go compete for championships. And that's why, you come to a place that is so special, like Ohio State. And, but you have to stay focused on what really matters, and it's just those players. and, putting them in the best position you could possibly put them in, figuring out what you got to do on a year-to-year basis to get it better, and then just, pouring in all your time and effort to give them the best chance to be successful on Saturday, because that's it. I mean, that's why you get into coaching. And being able to watch my son play high school football this year was like almost refreshing for me, because those guys, whether it was Ohio State football or their high school team, I mean, they were living and dying by every single game. I mean, when they win, it's, dinner at Roosters, and everybody still got the eye paint on their eyes, and the girls are around and everybody's feeling good. And when they lose, it's like the world comes to an end. And that's why you get into coaching, and there's a lot of things that come with it. I get it, but the focus has to be on that. And when you think about that, there is no pressure.
You're in the stands or the sidelines, you're going, what was that call?
No comment on that. No comment.
I asked you a little bit about this on Saturday night, but following up, is there a sense that this running game is coming along? I mean, what like y'all kept knocking at the door until it opened down the other.
Yeah, we took a step in the right direction, and getting Trey back helped us. But that was one game. We'll figure out where we're at this week, and then at the end of the season, you come up for air and figure out where you're at. But we know where it needs to be in order to have the balance to go win a championship. And so the one thing about this team, they come to work every week, and they want to get better every week. They prepare at a high level, and they have high aspirations. I mean, they want to win them all. So we'll get back to work today.
Bill Landis, the podcast.
Ryan, what you just said about sometimes offensive linemen getting a little nervous and maybe pinching down instead of taking the outside guy. Is that what happened on the fourth down play, the first fourth down play? It looked like they had 3 over Josh Fryer, 1 drop, 1 round with Trey, and then the outside guy came, and Josh looked like he was like maybe a half step slow to get there. That's kind of how the play broke down. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
In that particular protection, yeah, that was a 5-man protection in the end. When the back released, you saw the safety run with the wheel route, and then you kind of have to sort out what the most dangerous is in there. So, I don't remember exactly how that fit on that side of it, but yeah, that was a 5-man protection as well.
For any, I guess, developing quarterback, not Kyle specifically, anyone you work with, what is the balance between wanting to play fast, react quickly, and make quick reads, but not allow yourself to get sped up in a way that impacts your mechanics and perhaps your accuracy?
Yeah, it's one of the things that I talk about all the time with those guys is finding the speed of the game. And you can be a second too slow, you can be a second too fast, or even a half a second on both ends. And the best way to do that and to find the speed of the game is your feet. And that's where your feet have to translate in practice to the game. And, I think when you watch Kyle's feet, when his feet are underneath him, he's trusting his eyes and he's trusting his feet. That's when he's playing his best football. So that'll continue to be the message.
You mentioned feet a lot with Kyle, and it appears that one of his feet are injured. I don't, is it hard to be consistent with that when you're not 100% with that kind of part of your body?
I don't know. I mean, there's, this time of year, there's going to be a lot of things that come up, and, it's just kind of the way it goes. But I say it all the time, and Coach Mick says it all the time, nobody cares. We got to go win games. So that's the mentality our entire team has.
And right next door, we're wrapping up with Doug Maurice, Kings of Columbus.
Right. You talked about this a little bit. You guys were averaging like 33 points a game offensively this year, only giving up 10. Most of your tenure, you guys are scoring in the mid 40s, but the last several years you're giving up points in the 20s. Just what's the process of, it's a little bit of a different game. We talked about it some, but just what's it been like for you guys understanding what this team is, and then how that may or may not affect decision-making, how you coach it, stuff you do during a game?
Yeah, well, I think the goal is always to score as many points as you can on offense. So that hasn't changed. I think early on, when you have some new faces in there, maybe you're trying to build as you go. But then when you find yourself in, we've been in some top 10 matchup games, some top 25 matchup games where, you got to do everything you possibly can to win those games. And then, we're looking to continue to build as we go. If we take care of the football and are more efficient, then maybe we are in the 40s here. And so what's happened in the past has happened in the past. So let's get ourselves into the 40s here in the month of November. That's the goal. But I'm talking about the offense. But as a whole, when the defense is controlling the game, we're going to make sure that we win the game. You can't all of a sudden get selfish or or out in front of yourself because all it takes is a couple bad plays and you're right back into it again and you put the team at risk. So we're not going to do that, but we are going to continue to fight to be the best offense in the country.
And then you always talk about, right, whenever a quarterback does something, you want to know what they were seeing.
Yep.
Right. The first pick with Kyle, what was that conversation like? And just, 8 games into this season, in terms of your quarterback seeing the game and just decision-making in general, where is he there?
Yeah, I think the feedback that I'm getting is really accurate on what's happening on the play. I certainly know he wants that first one back. And he would tell you that as well. But then there was other things that, or other times where, when you ask a question, early on, you'd ask what was seen and you'd get a different. He's seeing it great. He's seeing it. Giving really good information on the sideline, and that gives everybody confidence that he's recognizing what's going on with the coverage. He's recognized what's going on with the routes, and that's really good. And there's been a couple times where he's given me feedback where I didn't quite see it that way, and I come back, watch the film, and he was right, and that's really encouraging. So a lot of growth there.
Coach, thank you
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Are going to open up questioning for Coach Jim Knowles. Front row right here, Austin Ward.
Jim, if Lathan is out for a couple of weeks, what would that do to the configuration, you think? We saw Sonny and Jordan play a little bit more together on Saturday. Would that be the way you think you'd continue?
Yeah, I think that's highly possible.
What do you like about, or what concerns would you have either way? I guess hearing the
Concerns. I think they've both proven themselves in a lot of different dimensions, so I don't have any concerns about it.
Far left, Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
When you guys were first looking at Davison from the portal, just what maybe jumped out at you immediately that this was somebody that you needed to pursue?
He's aggressive. He plays with confidence, gets his hands on people. He's not afraid to fight at corner and challenge people. You can see that. And he's a willing tackler. Like, he really throws himself in there in the run game, which I think you don't see that in corners all the time.
Greater value to you coming off of last season, because that was, I know because of injuries and other things, but that was an element that was kind of missing from that.
Yeah, it was a dynamic I think we needed. He raised the level of all the guys around him. Competed, as a new guy, you come in, he's competing in practice, and everybody sees that, and he's not intimidated by anybody. So yeah, I think it helped a lot.
Right behind him, Joe Nugent, WCM.
8 games into the season, only one player has rushed more than 100 yards against you guys. How much of that is improved defense, and how much of that is different college football these days?
Our game is such a week to week thing, and you're just trying to get better all the time. And I feel like it's improvement. I feel like it's confidence. Guys understanding the system and their role in it. Being able to handle the adjustments that happen, because you spend a lot of time on a game plan, and sometimes that changes on Saturday. Right? A lot of times it changes on Saturday as the game goes on. So I feel like, particularly in the run game, we're able to make adjustments, and I think it shows up.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Jim, even before Latham went out of the game, you had Sonny back there playing deep safety. Just what went into that decision to move him from nickel to safety last week?
It was just more of a nickel. It was more of a nickel game in terms of the matchup on the slot, and we felt like Jordan would be better at that. So we wanted to find places to get Sonny into the game. And against a spread RPO team, playing him at high safety worked, and it's a good thing we did it.
When you think about Sonny's long-term future, do you think that playing one of those high safety spots could be the long-term plan for him?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think, he's now getting experience at both, and I think he can really add a different dimension, as you look to the future and structuring things, so he can be in there with other guys and end up in different places and add some unpredictability to it.
Fourth row right, Andy Backstrom, Lettermen Row.
Jim, in terms of the run defense, Jack Sawyer seems like he's really stepped up the last few weeks in that regard. Is he someone that kind of have to watch the game twice to really realize everything he's doing against them?
Yeah, I think so. I think anybody who's serious about watching the game and studying it, like I know you men and women are, probably more at the Ohio State than anywhere I've ever been. I mean, there's a lot of great football knowledge in the fan base and in the reporters. Yeah, so when you watch it, you see that he is controlling things at the line of scrimmage and getting off blocks. And I think all 3 of those plays in the goal line, he was involved in. He was involved in them, in those stops. Those are huge stops, huge stops as you look at the flow of the game. So, yeah, he's been doing that. And maybe that doesn't show up in the sack statistics, but it means a lot to the defense.
Jeremy, deep center field, Jeremy Birmingham, podcast.
Jim, you guys have not played what would be probably described as like an athletic quarterback yet this year. You played guys who move around in the pocket well. Obviously, St. Martin, those guys who played a lot of ball, but Wimsett is a little bit different in the way that he's utilized. How does that change the plan for you this week, if at all? And does that mean you maybe have a different, expectation of what success is this week?
No, you always have. You have to have that element in the college game all the time, because anybody can do it. I think you have to put some things in to make sure you can control it more rather than just be, hey, we're fundamentally sound, we got everything covered. You have to have some things where you're controlling that more.
Also, Flattery works great with us, so just keep telling us how great you are.
I'm not going to say anything.
Tony Grudman, Buckeye Huddle.
Jim, losing Lathan for however long, how does that change the nickel situation because Sonny's no longer there? Is Jermaine a guy that could maybe give some depth there, or is he strictly an outside guy? What is Jordan going to do the entire time? Like, how is all of this going to work in your mind and in practice?
Yeah, I mean, it changes. It changes. I don't know that it would necessarily be Jermaine. He's a true freshman, so you don't want to overload him with those responsibilities. But there are other corners, that where he can go to a corner and other guys can move inside who have more experience.
Far right, Adam King, WBNS.
Coach, I know you're not going to celebrate in the middle of the season, but is there any part of you that in the defense that has to appreciate what you guys have done so far to be able to kind of further grow? Say, hey, look, this is where we wanted to be. Now we're going into November. Let's finish it off.
Yeah, I mean, there's no time for celebration, but we have a whole category that we call, I say get better, and the defense, they say every day. And then I say things we're doing well and things we need to get better at. So it's all, and then we go through. So yeah, you're highlighting those things that you're doing well. And then you're fixing the things that you can get better at. It's just a constant process. But I think when you have more good things, it's better. It's the praise, correct. Praise, correct. My college professor, Ken Blanchard, 1 Minute Manager, right? That you praise, correct, instead of, maybe at other times it's correct, praise, So, I mean, when you have more of the positives to highlight, it just, I think it helps everybody.
Sorry about that, Coach. Tim May, on 3, Lettermen Row.
Yeah, in that vein, you're sitting up in the press box. It seems like everybody has one good drive again. You know what I mean? I mean,
Thanks, Tim.
What's going through your? But you know what I'm talking about. But what's going through your brain as that's happening, and then y'all quickly have fixed things. I mean,
yeah.
We've talked about that before. What is going through? Okay, they got me there. You know what I mean? What is the?
Yeah, and you're right. That happens. I don't like it, So you're just constantly trying to learn. Like the whole process of a game is really, as my job is to not celebrate the good plays or get too down about the bad ones. Right? You're just trying to process it and fix, or so. Yeah, and we've been able to adjust. So I think that's just, again, it's a good part of having guys who've been around in year two. I think you can adjust quicker.
Another quickie. You've been around the game for a long time. You played it and stuff.
I played Division 68 though. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You played.
Yeah.
Bottom line is, do you ever sit there and marvel at fellas who have the audacity or the determination to just give it up and play this game at the level it has to be played at from a physical standpoint of, like JT Tuimoloau getting back in there after taking that little shot or whatever it was. You know, I don't know. I guess what goes into a defensive player's mindset that makes him play full speed, knowing the consequences?
Yeah, there's a toughness, obviously, that goes along with our sport. And then when you play defense, I think there's just an extra, you know, we always talk about, you know, our honor, defending our team, defending our fan base, really it's like defending all that work, because they put in so much work. I mean, what people don't even know, they put in so much work. And you say what you want, but these guys work 365 days a year. So then you get these limited number of games. And really, I think the extra toughness for them comes from the brotherhood. And it's like, hey, we put all this work in. Now it's our job to defend it, you know? So it's a tough man's game, no doubt. And I think on defense, you're, like I always say, joke with offensive coaches, you can't punt on defense. You know, you can't say, hey, we don't want to play anymore. Can we get off the field? You know, you can't do that. You have to stop them. That's what I tell them before every game is somebody has to make the tackle. You know, somebody has to put the other guy on the ground. And I think there's just a toughness that comes with that.
Tommy's play on the shovel pass, was that just from what you watched on video? You saw it live, watch on video. What does that just say about him?
That was an amazing play. I mean, if you brilliant men and women of the media broke that play down, we actually did not hit the blitz right. If you watched it, we had two guys up the field. I think we had Caden and Jordan. Well, they were supposed to X. Jordan didn't X. So now Tommy should have had help on that, and he was left one-on-one with that, with just a goal line tackle, and really an amazing play. Really. I mean, I think that just epitomizes hopefully where we're at right now, toughness. And then, like I said about Jack Sawyer, I mean, you're talking about, you know, the space from here to the wall. And like Jack Sawyer came like all the way around from the other side and wedged his body in there to push it back. So I don't know. That's not sexy, but that's our game. I mean, that's what wins football games.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Jim, was there a moment where you thought Cody was going to be able to have more of the snap share this year than he had last year? I know he didn't play last week, but generally last couple weeks he played more. Was there a time where you felt like he was going to?
Yeah, I still think that. Sometimes you get like, every time we put him in there, it was a 3 and out, you know, and then all of a sudden you look at the end of the game and he doesn't have as many snaps as you want, you know, and it just kind of works out that way when you start to put him in series. But I still believe that he's going to get more snaps and he deserves it, and he's done a really good job.
When he's in there, what's the best thing he provides for you guys?
He is, you know, he's really like a Mike linebacker at will, and he really kind of sees the field the same way Tommy does. And, you know, he thinks a lot like I do. Like he and Tommy, they understand how I think and why I'm calling things, you know, so he's like really an extra quarterback out there for us.
Right next door, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
How well has Lathan been playing?
Lathan's been much improved. His eyes, you know, any issues he's had in the past, we, you know, call it eye discipline, just like seeing too much. And he's really started to, like, you know, I call it see a little to see a lot. Like, you know, a lot of times at that safety position, you have to see just this, because that right there will tell you everything else that's going on. So yeah, he had really been improved. Yeah.
Wisconsin's quarterback lock got you on a quarterback draw. That was the biggest run play of the game.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome. I'm sure it's surprised you because he's not really a runner. Wimsatt is. So how much of a challenge is he going to be?
Yeah, definitely a challenge. And they're a team that likes to really control the ball, so you got to be very, very aware of that. You're right. That one was, when we review explosive plays, we have a category called defend explosives, right? I say defend explosives. They say 5 or less undefeated, so 5 or less explosive plays, we're going to win every game. But then I have to put them up there and I have to talk about why they happened. So when that one came up, I had to say, okay, that's on me. They say that was my call was not good for that play. But with the guy we're facing this week, you have to be very aware of it.
Lettermen Row, Kings of Columbus.
Cameron Martinez was in for a handful of snaps last game. I guess the dime look, the floor covered. How do you, we know sub packages are part of the deal, but just what's the process of when you decide to go to a look like that, when you decide to maybe stick with
it's all matchups, it's all matchups, trying to get the right matchups. Cam's been a guy who, hasn't been healthy. We're just trying to work him back in. We think he can help us in those situations when the offense puts a lot of speed on the field.
And we talked about this a lot early in the season, but just the conversations you have with your defense now, maybe compared to a year ago, and in the spring and in the offseason, we were talking about like just that next level, that second year. Can you just describe a little bit like how they are maybe different right now compared to year one?
Yeah, I don't know that the conversations are different. The expectations are different. I think that's where it all goes. It's all about the expectations. When you're just trying to learn things and, maybe trying to fake it until you make it, there's like a different feeling than whether you're going to stop them, that you expect to stop them. And here's why, so I just think the expectations are a lot different.
And we'll wrap it up with Bill Landis, the podcast.
The second down run stop that Hero made in the fourth quarter, I was surprised to kind of see him out there. I don't know if you were, but have you seen that coming for him? Like that was a 7-point game. They're kind of near midfield, and a redshirt freshman who's hardly ever played makes a pretty big play there.
It was a really good play. I'm glad you saw that. And yeah, we had been seeing that with Hero. Hero's been a guy that's been showing up in inside drill, and he's been, we've been working him in a lot in practice. And I was really pleased with that play. That was a good play. He beat the block and made the tackle. That's a big deal. And our defensive tackles have been doing that a lot more this year. Not just using up blocks, but actually beating the block and making the tackle. That's a big deal. And Hero is doing a nice job.
Great. Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.